people. And I always tell people, if somebody does something once to you, they do something that's bad or they're mean or they yell at you, then they go, oh, I'm sorry, I didn't mean that. That isn't me. If something came over me, I want you to realize that that is never the case. It's always part of a pattern. People never, ever do something just once. They will do it again and again and again. It reveals something about them.
And before we proceed, it's not yet the Thursday, the early hours, Wednesday morning. I just wanted to proceed and remark on this regarding my expression in the previous video on essentially figuratively, so to speak, wishing, or spiritually, even dare to say, in essence, expressing as if to wish ill to someone else, in essence. What is that all about? What is this? Well, here's the reality check.
It's very common when you get hurt by someone to wish harm on somebody else. How difficult is it when you get really damaged by somebody, to look at them and be like, I really wish you well? And I'm not talking this BS spiritual crap where it's like, yeah, namaste and peace be with you. No, I mean like genuinely wish them well. Do you know how hard that is? Okay, so what that means is in the vast majority of us, it's still an impulse for the other person who hurt us to be hurt. Okay, then you're a part of war. End of story. So why are we continuing to focus on this? Oh, there are other dimensional forces at play when we could be focusing on, all right, let's work with the aspect of me that genuinely wishes harm. And I mean in a compassionate way. Not, oh, now I'm going to make an enemy of the part of me that wishes harm on others. You see, it's like the traps are endless internally. We've got all the work cut out for us that we need.
What is it about women and accountability to where the two are just like oil and water? Why is that?
Well, how often do we really hold them accountable?
It's very rare.
Sure.
I guess just the pattern that I've noticed is like, it's a constant process of emotional justification for their actions without admitting that it was a mistake.
I think it's not necessarily because in their heart of hearts they believe it.
Yeah.
It's because it works. Like every time the cop lets the woman off the hook for the speeding ticket because she's crying, it just trains that kind of behavior in women.
Okay.
Like, to what extent has acting in that way caused the dad to let up when she was a girl?
There's a quote from Socrates that goes, trust not a woman when she weeps, for it is her nature to weep when she wants her will. Thoughts on that?
It's a banger.
Sorry, Madison.
Works.
I agree.
What?
Before we proceed to review and discuss further the results of what ended up happening, it's now after Thursday morning. It's actually Friday, almost Saturday now. A few days after. Just a couple of the things I came across, content-wise, from the internet, but that I think correctly get at more of the fundamental, foundational aspects of the problem. Let's see.
What is it about women and accountability to where the two are just like oil and water? Why is that?
Well, how often do we really hold them accountable?
It's very rare.
Sure.
I guess just the pattern that I've noticed is like, it's a constant process of emotional justification for their actions without admitting that it was a mistake.
I think it's not necessarily because in their heart of hearts they believe it.
Yeah.
It's because it works. Like every time the cop lets the woman off the hook for the speeding ticket because she's crying, it just trains that kind of behavior in women.
Okay.
Like, to what extent has acting in that way caused the dad to let up when she was a girl?
There's a quote from Socrates that goes, trust not a woman when she weeps, for it is her nature to weep when she wants her will. Thoughts on that?
It's a banger.
Sorry, Madison.
Works.
I agree.
Person does a sin of gezel, let's say a theft. So theft in the Hebrew letters is Gimel Zayin Lamed, gezel. So it's a Gimel, a Zayin, and a Lamed. The act of him stealing is he is now creating through that act. You don't see this because our eyes are very thick, but in the higher spiritual reality, which is in those worlds, you see not physically, but you see that the organization of the world is created with more and more refined levels of existence, and that is higher and higher combinations of Hebrew letters. Anybody wants more information on this, we gave classes on the Tanya, which goes into this in depth. So the act of stealing is generating a gimel, a zayin, and a lamed, gezel.
And of course, any offense that's ever perpetuated against anyone ever that creates indignation of any degree ever, that's not fully contextually justified within the situation, in essence, in effect, does precisely the same thing as this, whatever degree that it does. But yes, this is absolutely correct. This is one of the truest things that can ever be said. Continuing.
That's bad, because the Mishnah in Pirkei Avos says when a person does an Aveira, he creates a... I'm going to read you the Mishnah now, and I'm going to explain it in the following way. Doing an Aveira generates what's called a kategor. A kategor means like a prosecuting angel. A prosecuting angel means, let's make it all very simple. If somebody does something negative and there's a witness there, so what does the witness now think about this person? He watched him steal it. So this witness, who used to be a good friend of yours, how does he look at you now? Oh, you thief. You're a thief. You're a thief. So the act of stealing created now this new reality in this bystander called I see you as a thief. Okay, so that's on a simple level. And therefore, this person who maybe was his good friend before that, but now in a court of law, this person sees this guy as a thief. The act of theft generated this guy seeing him as a thief. So this is what it means, that when a person does a sin, it creates a prosecution. Because now you've generated prosecuting energy against you. Let's now take this into a spiritual concept. If a person does, God forbid, a sin, it says that it creates a prosecuting angel. This angel, let's call it Gezel. Those Hebrew letters are generating an energy from heaven that's prosecuting this guy. And maybe that angel, when Hashem is considering giving blessing to this person, so this angel pipes up and says, how could you give blessing to this guy? Look, he steals. He's creating prosecution against this person. Now imagine not only that, he doesn't only steal, but he says Lashon Hara, and he's mean, and he gets angry, and he yells at his kids. There's all these voices of prosecution against this guy. That's not great. All those voices of prosecution are formulated through Hebrew letters. So
I'm saying, kind of figuratively speaking, or essentially spiritually speaking, it's spiritually true in a kind of way. But genuinely, substantively, this is fully true. So consider, every single offense that I have raised and claimed as having transpired, substantiated, it has transpired indeed through my own testimony as the witness. I'm the first witness of my own victimization, sad to say. I don't love talking like that, but what the hell else is this? Indignation, you see. Every single offense that can be beheld as present as having taken place within the narrative that's been shown within the last few dozen videos within this playlist regarding this whole matter, as it continues to unfurl, and we keep seeing more recently, the offense train doesn't end. Here's another one, another one, another one, another one. It makes us wonder, see, if you're spiritually dumb, blind, and deaf, if you're one in my mom's general kind of position, it's like, la la la, oh, nothing's wrong, you're in zombie sleepwalking mode. But if you look at this here is what wakes you up and reminds you, wait a minute, like, oh yeah, what the hell am I doing?
for example, that particular voice called theft, gezel. But remember, Gezel is a Gimel, a Zayin, and a Lamed. Now back to what we mentioned yesterday. Chilufeim begoylem. If you want to flip something around, you have to go to the world called Golem. Golem is the highest spiritual world called Chochmah of Atzilus, which is a high place in your mind, which corresponds to the letter Yud. Corresponds to the letter Yud.
That is, if you want to flip something around. Mind you, there's two ways to flip it around. There's the true way of flipping something around, which is genuinely coming into remorse, realizing you did wrong, and now you're going to flip the liability once you atone for it and you pay it off so you can merit genuine, true forgiveness and be freed, released from that problem. The false way of flipping it, traditionally often ascribed to women, sadly, but many men and women do this too, is you simply try to revert the frame as to what's right and what's wrong, who's right and who's wrong, who's the one in control of the situation or not in control of the situation. But this is the false one. Why? Because this doesn't actually work truly. By doing this, you're only trying to make a false flip appearance here on earth on the lower plane without actually having the jurisdiction or authority to flip it in the higher spiritual realm. So God's still crushing it, and then it's even more so you get crushed because the double offense is that you're trying to subvert it down here afterwards, after you receive the rebuke. What the hell are you, psychopath?
So you have this world in the highest recesses of your mind that corresponds to the letter Yud. Now, why is that significant? Because if I can take something that happened,
and by the way, just to mention very relevantly, people wonder how it is that I'm so effective at exactly causing that thing which I prophesied, state, or otherwise in a sort of aspect kind of curse when I pronounce it with my lips and it happens. I have now a track record of multiple strings of this happening. You people wonder, how is this happening? It's exactly, here you are, here's your answer. When you get to a level you understand these things, all of it becomes as if almost by magic, except not magic, it's just, you connect, you understand how the matrix works, so you're plugged into it, so you run it, basically. You people are idiots trying to defy it, go against something like this. Continue.
I can, so to speak, elevate it to the highest part of my consciousness. I can begin the process of healing. Because if Gezel is the way it looks like down here, but I could take that energy and I could actually see and have charota and have remorse for what I did. Essentially,
exactly, bingo.
What I do is I'm taking the letters back up to where they draw themselves from. All letters draw themselves from the world called Goylem as a Yud. So I take the Gimel, it's no longer a Gimel. I can now erase the letter back to a Yud, and now instead of it being a Gimel, I could draw something else. I could draw, let's say I want to turn that Gimel to a Lamed. So I take a Lamed, and then I draw that down. And a Zayin, I don't want it to be a Zayin, I erase it, and I bring it, and I draw back down a Beis. So I have Lev, I have a heart. And then instead of the last Lamed, I retrace that to a Yud, and I leave it as a Yud, Libi, that my heart. And all of a sudden I start changing reality, because this is all of tshuva, by the way.
That's right.
Is that you're retracing the things that have happened back to their origin source. Okay? If you want to change things that have happened, you need to go back to the place where it's starting from. And by the way...
Exactly right. And this is the lesson I'm trying to teach extremely stubborn people who still aren't understanding. They're trying to work down here to try to force a new tunnel. Your new physical tunnels don't work when they don't correspond to the spiritual overlay, idiots. But you should know that you're done.
When you trace yourself back to that level of your own consciousness, there's a deep sense of this action is not me. This action is just something that I got caught up in. So much of tshuva is about, I only did that aveira. Why does a guy steal? He's only stealing because he's not connected to who he really is. if he's connected to who he really is as an infinite soul.
That's right. Why do you call the police on your own son multiple times over the course of your life? All unjustified, as also corroborated and witnessed, in a sense, found it to be correct and true as a holding or finding by my own initial witness, Anthony Pryor. At this point, is virtually undebatable. Continuing. Why do you not speak to your own son for a year and a half properly and relate to him properly? Which is insane. Exactly right. Because your very soul is in misalignment. Is not normal. Is not natural. Not correct. Not godly.
So why does he steal? He doesn't need to steal. As an infinite soul, the Torah says not to steal. It says, whatever you need, you have. You don't.
Yeah, and the Torah also says, the Bible also says, Christianity, Jesus as well also say, don't act unloving towards your fellow people, especially towards your closest people, obviously. Not natural, not normal, not loving. You're wrong, you're guilty.
To steal, you don't need to acquire those things in a forbidden way. So the process of going back up to Chachma, to the Yud, is the process of tshuva. And once a person arrives at that place, you can start to heal and draw new things. You can start to rewrite your life. And therefore, this is people who have gone through traumas, people who have gone through very difficult things.
And in the meantime, my mother writes to Anthony, this was from a few months ago or so, as featured already within one of the earlier things featured within these videos, within this playlist. Writing to him as recently as just about a few months ago, to him while he was still involved. Maybe this was November, December, something like this, of 2023. Writing, in essence, to Anthony, I don't really understand what I did wrong, or I didn't really do. No, what's the problem? I don't understand the problem. Empty-mindedness, sick. So you're still disconnected. You have to understand what you did wrong, and then correctly, genuinely be found crying, having real remorse for it. Otherwise, you can never have forgiveness. So what do we see over the next few months? The mother trying to petition for forgiveness and reconciliation because she wants to force the appearance that it's fine because that's dominating the situation without making the spiritual work.
This whole journey of going back to the deepest place in your consciousness is where you could start redesigning life. But you have to go all the way up, okay? So far, so good?
Going mindlessly to confession on Saturdays. Oh, I'm sorry I did this, I'm sorry I did that. And then half the things you're naive about what even constitutes wrongdoing or sins. You don't even mention the other stuff. You think it's fine, so you just go every week. The idea of meriting forgiveness, that's why you're not forgiven, that's why you remain under the curse, in essence, under heaven, under God, isn't the ritual isn't I go every week because I'm supposed to just say it over and over again. No. If you're not actually sorry for it, you'll get crushed.
Now the Rebbe says the following, V'zeh gam kein soid havidui. And this is what it means, the secret of vidui. Vidui, we do this. Ashamnu, bagadnu, I did this and I did that. So there's a lot more going on. So it says when a person does a chait, a person makes a kategor, like we mentioned. He makes a ministering angel. And the ministering angel is whatever the Hebrew letter combinations are of that Avera. So it can get wild, like if he did a whole bunch of Averas, all those Hebrew letters in that order create bad vibes. So let's say now he created this thing, whatever, he had a night.
That's right, and also if you bring people in your life and you allow people who to be brought in your life who, and this is there's an association that's valid, it's true, it's not without exception, but as a generality, it's really and sad for people, it's safe to say, oftentimes people who don't believe in God and are not spiritually connected, so they make themselves to be God, that correlates, not so strongly, not even moderately, but at least mild to even mild, moderate borderline, somewhere around there. Yeah, an association, a correlation with just absolute non-accountability. So if she alone could have been accountable, oh, now I have this boyfriend for the last 20 years, he's not religious, he's not connected, and now you're connected with him, you choose to link with him spiritually, physically, all that. What do you have? Now you're psychologically dependent on his frame. What's his frame? He doesn't believe in God, so even if you act like you believe in God, it doesn't matter. You sold yourself to someone who doesn't believe in God. He controls the frame, and your woman mind is a copycat mind. You're always going to copy the frame of whatever's going on around you. That's why mom's boyfriend flies away to another country. My mom's nice to the son. The same week he comes back, all of a sudden she, in her mind, somewhere in the justification, oh, now I can flip the way I behave because I have to what? Adhere to a new frame. Women, as in other videos, and I'm going to make new videos that describe this even more. Female yin energy engages in a behavior that constitutes what we call frame worship. Men don't do this properly, but when they do, they're in their lower state. And it gets more and more and more complicated. If I keep describing this, it's going to take up so much time, but let's get on track here. You have your ultimate obligation is to God and to the godly framework. Anything you do down here that misaligns, the woman scheme doesn't work. I don't know, oh, wham, wham, and fake lookings, fake surface looks won't work, especially when the man is the God eye. We continue.
Out, and I don't want to say what happened. And there were all these combinations of letters that are not great combinations, are now prosecuting against him. So he wants to get rid of that. So part of the tshuva process, okay, is that he has to be able to return to a place in himself where he realizes that this is not me. I'm sorry for what I did. I take responsibility. But deeper than that is one of the powerful things about, when a person does something he shouldn't have done. People relate to this when it comes to, let's say, a relationship. You have a couple and they have a fight. Now, it's bad, they're in a fight. Why is it that so often after the fight, the couple feels even closer after they make up? How could that be? Like, the fight should have just damaged things, and now you're damaged. Like, why? And everybody knows this. Like, after a fight, there's even like a greater closeness. Like, what's up with that?
It's like when you work out, you do it to kind of tear little parts of your muscles so then they grow back stronger in a way where the
So I should fight? I should come home, ooh, I got a great idea. I'm gonna pick a fight.
Yeah.
I'm gonna rip a little bit, pull out some hair, and like, don't worry, tomorrow we'll be pumped up, we'll be jacked up even more as a couple, right?
Great idea.
Great idea, right? So I would advise against it, but why? It's true, maybe that's the mechanism. So let's go into it a little bit. Is that, I think what's happening is the following. When there's a fight, there's a distance. There's a distance in that relationship. And that relationship, we hope, as the distance is created, a person touches a place where he feels, how could I have taken them for granted? Now I really appreciate who you are. When you kind of lose something a little bit, there's like, oh no, I didn't appreciate you who you are. I feel distant. And in a
this is absolutely correct. But now look at this, the flip side of this, which is the sick aspect. This is true, and it's very true. You see of like couples where like boyfriend girlfriend like this. It's true. It works. These rebounds, these reorbiting back around, cycling back around, only works because originally you had the connection to begin with. Well, of course, you have to if you're boyfriend girlfriend, right? Now imagine this. Here's how crazy this is, right? And normally this is what motivates people, normal human beings, to, with any family relationship, brother, sister, siblings, parents with the child with the parents, the orbiting back around, the realization, oh, now I took them for granted, I'm realizing who you are, I come back to that so that we could be reharmed. That's good. There's the pull for that. That's good. That's why it works. So most normal people can make restoration But here's the sick part. If you are a parent or a mother that has basically so severely neglected the genuine capacity of the true relationship that you have with your child, grown child even, where really over the course of your life you didn't really have a genuine bond with them, then your circuitry has a completely different meta programming on it, because you only relate to your children by the tension that you have with them that's adverse tension. So if you get that out of the way, but you never had a genuine bond to begin with, plus you possibly have a controlling, anxious nature, you don't know how to actually be with your children. You don't actually you don't know how to be in a good mode with them. So the only way, so that's more awkward for your circuitry because you don't know how to handle it. Plus there's no conditioning that this was ever good for you, that you're comfortable there, you love it. So you don't love it, you run away from it. So you're comfortable at an arm's distance. So you sabotage your own lives because you have some mixture of control and fear, plus you're avoiding what you never had. So that's even worse somehow for you. There's the big deep insights. Yeah, my mom, I remember years ago, but not that long ago, few years ago already. Time flies, but it really feels like yesterday. She's standing here. She goes to me, I don't know, randomly. The subject matter we were talking about, or whatever's going on after, is not so much connected to it. I'm just standing around, and then she just, out of the blue, turns around and goes, you don't even know me. I mentioned this before on this channel playlist. If the mother's saying that, it's her fault. If she admits that this is even true, that's a self-condemnation to her, of course, naturally, and anyone would agree. But secondly, if that is even partially true, whose fault is that? Hers. But exactly. Now you realize why years later, when she allows a problem to happen, she doesn't just allow it to happen. She wasn't just an active participant in making it happen when no one else would do that. But then she's an active participant in keeping it that way. Why? Because if there's never the candy there to begin with, that's sweet, there's no contrast. The moth always goes to where the light is. But if there's never light, then everything's the same. Everything's the same. So therefore, being irreconciled with your son completely is torture for anyone else. For her, that's just a normal day.
In the way I start connecting to the real you in a much more profound way. I was maybe taking advantage of things, or I wasn't showing you the respect that you deserve.
Exactly. Where was it? A man demands this. Every man. Why would the volume stop working suddenly?
I was maybe taking advantage of things, or I wasn't showing you the respect that you deserve. So what am I really doing? I'm focusing on the you, like a much deeper version of you. And that kind of feeling is, and I miss you. I want to be close to you.
Exactly right. This is what makes it impossible for 99.8% out of 100 human being mothers to really be just irreconciled with your own children, especially doubly so for your male sons, this long without any remorse, problem, regret, a heaviness on your heart where you realize, oh my God, it's me, I need to change. Only the most sick are capable of doing what my mom is actually easily appearing to do.
So now imagine that to yourself. Your own relationship. When a person steals something, it's not only going against another person, obviously.
You stole my dignity.
But it's a disgrace to you that you're a thief.
You are a thief.
So when a person does that, let's say a person does something, he feels disgusting about himself.
But only normal people feel disgusting about themselves. And in a world that's more adopting the Amalek programming, which is the narcissistic programming, more so now than ever before, and acceleratedly so, it's crazy. It's like the line of your consciousness, conscience, and DNA deleted, and you just don't feel remorse. You're already dead inside.
You just feel like yuck.
If you're alive,
you
feel yuck.
10 hours of Netflix, and you get up, you're like, I feel disgusting. So that feeling like, I feel disgusting. So far. And if from that place of farness, you're like, I miss me. I miss the me. I needed to get away to see in that place the real me. So in a certain way, when you get to that place of distance, you identify, I don't want this.
But when you don't know yourself or who you are, and you don't really know or not connected with the other person or anyone else, so you don't know yourself, you're not connected with yourself, you're not connected genuinely with your own son, so then it doesn't matter. Then is the only place where there is no such pull. So you're stranded psychologically, spiritually, demonically.
Who's the I? And you get this feeling of just catapulting to this very exalted place. So this is part of the tshuva of, I got involved in something and I feel disgusting about it.
That's exactly how one in my mother's position should feel if they're a normal person. Exactly, proceeding.
And now I want to go to the highest place of me. The highest place of me is called the Yud. By the way, your head is like a Yud. The highest place of me is this exalted universe called Goyim. That from that place, I can now rewrite anything I want. I can now redesign my life. Now, why are you able to do that? And why does that erase the sin? Because in a certain crazy way, the sin itself helped you to get there. Because the distance now helped you to feel far from you and the desire, I just want to be back to who I really am.
But do people who write to the previous witness saying, oh, a year plus later, no idea what I did wrong, oh, I did nothing, we're going to help him, he's bad, oh, I'm going to help him, cool. The longer you hold to the sick frame, the more demonically down you're going to get pulled.
I miss you, you're speaking to your spouse, your partner, your friend, I miss
anyone, your friend even, family member of any kind, that's right.
You. So the distance created the space of, and I don't want this, and I want.
The problem, fundamentally speaking, is that I am not missed. We looked at all the emails from my mom that have come through. Do any of them show that she misses me? Where's the missing? Is not missing. If she doesn't miss someone, you can never be reconciled with them. You harm them, and then your own words betray who you really are inside, and you should be condemned for being an unloving mother.
This. So when you get to that very exalted place, you can now rewrite words. That's a Yud. Okay? And the Rebbe also points out that one of the steps in tshuva is called charata. Charata also means to like carve something out. You're like recarving all the letters. It means to feel bad, but it also means to carve.
But it also means to feel bad, as you just said. That's right. It's a requirement, therefore, all the wisest rabbis, sages, and all the other people everywhere through life, we know this. You have to feel wrong and bad and remorseful for any other part of that road to become properly unlocked. That's it. Now, really, in hindsight, now we look at it's more and more obvious. Yeah, what is this woman doing? Trying to gain the benefit without having the proper psychological, spiritual alignment to actually be able to properly proceed down that road. Yeah.
Like recarving a new life. It's like tshuva can change your life entirely.
Tshuva means repentance, return, not BS.
Entirely. Tshuva is so powerful.
Tshuva is so powerful. But does it look like the mother who wants to avoid the involvement of witnesses, even by this point in time? There's a substantive test for us all, for her. She failed. Does a real remorseful person want to prevent witnesses? Or does a real remorseful person openly go, you're right, I'm sorry, I'm willing to pay the price, yes. Part of that price is having whatever witnesses, of course. Now you have to be witnesses spiritually to fulfill the proper cycles. As you mentioned earlier, the key component of witnesses and role of witnesses, yeah. Come on, wake up.
Yeah.
If that collection of letters is given an energy from the original golem state of Yud through certain kind of coming down into a different level, and that corresponds with the angel
yes.
of what's the word, the kind of
Kategor.
Yeah, Kategor. How is that energy given to that specific group of letters in the first place? How is that specific group of letters?
Because the problem was that a person from his golem, he, instead of using that universe for holiness, he took the power of a golem, he took the power of what a yud could become, which is anything. You could build a Shema Beis HaMikdash. And he took, so we're talking about, you could take from the golem and build anything. He started building unhealthy things.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. And worse over the course of my life with this woman. Only just more and more unhealthy things. 20, 30 years.
That was a contamination. He took the power of creating anything and he used it to create lowly things. From that lowly space, though, he recognizes, I don't want this. He goes back up to his source, and in that universe, he could start recreating. And now,
so right now we're at the problem stage where she doesn't even realize that she doesn't want the way that she is. She's still married to herself. She thinks she's fine. You have to cut yourself off, divorce yourself, so to speak, to move to God, and then find your new self with God.
a holy place. So I just want to point something out, and that's
interesting. That's called being born again, in essence, of the Spirit, so to speak.
That it says noise ovain. So noise ovain, which we talk about in the Hashem's powers of forgiveness, that He forgives us. Noise ovain.
But Hashem, God, cannot forgive you if the person you harmed down here at the earth level hasn't forgiven you. And Jesus said this too, very importantly. So there's no such thing you run to confession all you want, even if you were confessing, oh, yeah, I treated my son poorly. The priest doesn't know any better, and he should be asking. Part of the thing should be, you must make sure your son forgives you before God can forgive you. But he'll say, oh, you're atoned, you're forgiven. No, not actually. Not actually. So you big problem.
I think it means like he removes iniquity. He's forgiving. But it's interesting, the word nose means literally to lift up. It's like you're lifting up the word avon, you're lifting it up to the world of Goylam, to the world of the Yud, to the world of Chachma. And now the Rebbe says, and according to everything that we've introduced, now we can understand a little bit about Purim.
Every single instance, every single juncture, within every single word and sentence, within back and forth communication that's ever transpired, that brings lack of dignity to the person who you're speaking to, is the sin, is the lowering. And when you're rebuked, now the full karmic threshold is on you, that you don't return to God in that sense, to fix your letters, so to speak, as was described. You become condemned to the King David level as described in Psalm 109. I believe that's the number. We understand this, I hope. So much of this is me repeating things and restating things in so many different ways, but it's come on, woman, just wake up and stop playing that earthly game that your program runs. Stop it. We continue. I didn't get a response back. It's now the end of the week. So not only was she guilty of lying, saying, I understand, yet she didn't understand. We'll be done with everything this week. Wasn't done this week. I just want to paint one analogy. Imagine my grandma, my mom's mom, when she was still alive, the kind of person that she was. And, I knew how she was. My mom knew how she was. Not everyone necessarily listening to this might know how she was, but here's the thing. My grandma was on the outer level, she was like stern and mean, but in the inner core, she had integrity, and she was like kind of a beautiful, good person. My mom's the opposite. Her outer layer seems nice superficially, but the more inner you get, the more corrupt it becomes, and less integrity you end up finding, and the more in you go. So it's opposites. They're really opposites. But now look, if my mom had my own grandmother, her mom that is, as the primary model of what mother treatment is supposed to look like, yeah, let's really consider that then. Let's pose it. I would say this. I would say, if my mom were to go back in time to be roughly my age, a little older, oh yeah. I remember when I was 4 or 5 years old, my mom was 34, 35, 36. I'm 35 now. Okay, so let's reverse the reel. Imagine going back in time to when I was growing up and a child, maybe I could be a toddler, child, maybe teens. Okay, somewhere in that period of time. My mom was living in that apartment I grew up in, up there upstairs. I properly own the lease on the apartment I live in here alone. This is where my grandma and grandpa used to live. we used to come down here. We had a relationship. It was two different apartments, but it was almost as if it was one jointly, spiritually connected house. Really, you just go back and forth between apartments. If my grandma, kind of personality and integrity she had, if she came up to my mom, if she owed something to my mom, some kind of accountability or something that was critical and important to anyone, to my grandma, to my mom herself, and my mom was sitting there with expectation, expectantly, and my grandma, imagine, comes and says, "Ja obiecam, że ja tak zrobię. I promise that I will do this and this by this day. It will be done by the end of this week here in a few days." Okay. Dobrze, dobrze. Okay. Yes, okay. Tsurunyo. Very good, daughter. And then she goes back in the home. She withdraws. The grandma withdraws. Can my mom now really, realistically imagine? A few days goes by. My grandma were to say nothing. And then the end of the week comes and goes. And my grandma says nothing. And it's okay, so she broke the promise, but at least, okay, now that you're conscious, you're still awake in the brain, right? So now it's Monday morning, you failed the promise, but at least the rebound opportunity still naturally extended to you. That, well, your rebound window, probably your grace period is maybe 1 to 3 days roughly before it gets really ridiculous, unreasonably so ridiculous for even the second wave opportunity. At the very least, you, Barbara Basha, would expect Yanina Zizek, my grandmother, to come naturally 100%, 100% of the time. She would on herself get up, put on her nice outfit, her dress, her blouse, and come up to your door. She would knock. She'd take responsibility. She'd come in. She'd say, "Hello, I want to let you know I said this. It didn't go that way. I apologize. Here I am presenting myself to you, to this matter now. Now here's how we're going to handle it." It's full accountability system, because it's instinctive. It's instinctual for the person who's my grandma, who I would say was a better person, a good person, unlike my mom, fundamentally, given what we see. My mom, considering this now, could she disagree? I doubt. We know that's how my grandma was. Aha. She was your mother, Mom. So you got your mother programming from her. Now you're dealing with me how? You say something to me, and then, it doesn't even matter. Maybe I just don't care. Now you don't hear nothing. Now a few days. Now another promise is broken, and I just sit there quietly, like comfortably. Could you imagine? Yeah, sick, right? Now, when you compare the two, it's like, wow, what the hell are you doing? It's sick. It's offensive. Because go back. Could you imagine my grandma then let the end of the week go by, and then Monday goes, and my mom is sitting at home like, oh, Babcha, grandma said she's going to do it, didn't do it. Could you imagine if my grandma then did the extra mind-blowing offense of letting another 2 days, 3 days, 4 days, it's mind-blowing, go by, and she just absolutely no phone call, absolutely no knock on your door, absolutely just she avoiding you now and pretending like she didn't do anything wrong. You can't even imagine it. You can't even imagine it. But that's exactly what you're doing, Barbara Winslow. Now let it be clear and let it be shown that this is what's gone on. It's now Friday, going into Saturday almost. There's almost another week gone by. I'm tired of this. Puh! It deserves to be spit on. Regarding this, am I going to block my mom now from email? I'm going to tell you. This is a manipulation master, this woman, because she made so much offense that it almost makes you want to go insane over and over and over again. And yet, I'm thinking, it brings me to the borderline, to the threshold, like you flip a coin and it lands on its edge. That's where I am right now. And here's how man's law works. And I'm going to have to describe. I'm just about ready and willing to do this because she needs the lesson taught, and yet, properly speaking, under man's law, she needs to do something to make it an affirmative act, so that the something needs to be put with the exclamation marks to make it land over on the other side. Say, that's it. Reasonably speaking, you must be blocked now. When I blocked my mom over text last time, over text as we saw back in October, this was so. She was affirmatively expressly showing the offense. This is a tacit offense. It's not good. I'm not talking to her for now. But it'll be up to her for her to come back, reach out again. At the moment where she reaches out, then unless it's the apology, unless it's the securing and the imbued atonement where she came out, look, I did it all now, okay, and the momentum is moving in the correct track. At that point, the judgment will be finalized, and we're going to continue this. If anything comes from her, the first thing we see in response from her is not the thing that would have been naturally owed, which is all the sorries in the world. Then she'll be told, and it's being recorded here and shown, that this is more offense on top of offense, and you keep compounding it, and now your lack of proper accountability that you dreamed. Why do you keep doing this to yourself? Why do you keep destroying your family over and over again? You destroy it every day. You destroy it over and over again. We're tired of this. I'm tired of this. So, everything's frozen and suspended until we see, but there's no chance of a relationship if she doesn't deserve it by her hard work and deserving it. Tshuva. There's the only way. I don't know how else to tell it to you. Really, you've already earned a complete cutting off. I will not be speaking with her again until she reaches out, and then on the merit of how she speaks, when she reaches out, if it's another pretending, not even if she says something, and the whole body of her message or email is complete non-acknowledgement of what happened, that's it. Good. You finalized your own defeat. I will say, okay, I will respond like this, and I promise in advance now, I'll say, so there's no surprise. I'll say, you did all this and all that, and then you write like this, like nothing happened, or you write and you just made me wait longer, no accountability, and then you failed to properly show the way you're supposed to show about this now. I'll do exactly what I said that I promised. You'll be blocked on email. I don't know how to drive this to you. At some point, I'm going to be extending to my mom the email of the person who, at least so far, she's been watching these videos and being like the witness, sort of. I'll say, write to that lady. I don't want to deal with it. Write to Fallon. If she ends up still being involved, having some communication, having some continued problems reaching each other. Let's see how this works out. But anyway, I'm tired of it. I'm tired of indignation. I'm tired of indignation. Change your natures, or the whole world's going to be set on fire.